Hey, it's Lowery Smith of the Commander Smiths here with Search for the Spotlight, Judith, Carnage Connoisseur. Three and a black and a red for a 3/4. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, choose one. Either that spell gains lifelink and death touch, both, or create a 2/2 red imp creature token with when this creature dies, it deals 2 damage to each opponent. Dope. So, let's go. Sup, Adam? All right. So basically, it's you kind of want to be doing one or two things right there, and more than likely, both of them just depends on whatever spell you're using, right? But first, I want to get to Commander Smiths is a weekly podcast. We record almost every Monday night. If not, we kind of let you know the week before or whenever we know. We do deck buildings like Judith here. We do shorts like Curated or Proxy Time every once in a while. So you can definitely follow us on TikTok or now Instagram if you want to go check that out. We also have a Patreon. You will see some proxies in here, I'm sure. And Adam makes those wonderfully. And we give them out to patrons. And also, our patrons get to be on a Discord with us that they can talk with us at any time they so wish or choose. Otherwise, we're kind of aloof. So, getting on the Discord is helpful if you basically want to hang out with us. That's kind of the place to be. And that starts at $1. Proxies start wherever. Check out the list. And believe we have over 300 proxies to choose from, so that could be kind of cool. If you're into that thing. So all right, Judith here. Red black. Obviously, it's that kind of deck. I'm going to be looking to draw a lot of cards, sacrificing as many imps as I can, and then when I draw into whatever removal, we'll get there. So I have it under 100 cards. Normally, I'm around 100, 120 at this point. So um, I see this lasting under 2 hours, probably around an hour and a half. If you're watching live, make your comments. I think 400 now, 400 proxies now to choose from. It's quite a bit. There's some options there. Duels, fetches, all different types of utility lands, stuff like that. In the lands, obviously. Um, so I don't even remember where I was at this point. Oh, so if you're not watching this live, watch it in like 1.5, 2 times speed. And you'll get through this quicker. I talk slow enough that you'll be able to understand it and you'll not get bored or whatnot. So first off, I go through all the cards and then I'll try and make cuts as I go. And I'm going to get down to 70-ish. So Judith, bloop, 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 bloop. Choose. That's fine. All right. I don't know what. Okay. So these are going to be in packages of usefulness. And the first one's going to be a ramp. All right. And I know I need to cut down on my ramp and my drawing at this point, and everything else is close. So Dark Ritual, just get you to Judith quicker. Also an instant and or sorcery. So it just plays into the you're gonna make an imp if you do this later on. Strike It Rich, nice with the flashback, but creating a treasure creates an imp. Flashback, do it again. Just a little bit of being able to do it at all times, not running out of cards. Infernal Plunge, sacrifice a creature, you add 3 red. I think I'm gonna cut this just because I have enough sack outlets, and so I don't need it in my ramp and my draw and my removal and my you know what I mean? Like, you gotta cut it down to somewhere. So, Soul Ring will keep. Wayfarer's Bauble at this point, we will keep. Reducing costs. One thing that I'd like to do is have this chain together almost like a storm deck, even though there isn't many storm cards in here. So reducing my cheap draw spells by 1 makes everything like a red or a black, and that makes things go brrrr. Runaway Steamkin, creature, whenever you cast a red spell, any of them, put a 1/1 counter on it, and if there are 3 counters on it, you can remove them and add 3 red to your mana pool. Keeps on running. I think right now I'm roughly 50-50 on red and or black spells. So, we'll see where that goes. If it's seeing like black has more prominence, we kinda can cut this a little bit. It can't get more than 3 counters as well. But it's a nice card and feather to just keep on rolling. This one's likely staying, but Thunderscape Familiar reduces your black spells by 1. Pretty good in that regard. I also can turn the Nightscape Familiar and or Thunderscape Familiar into medallions, but since I'm sacrificing creatures, I was thinking that I'd go with that, and then later on, I can turn into a medallion if I feel like that's just better suited, um, for removal wise or, color fixing, stuff like that. Dockside, you get all the treasures. It's nice in that regard. Talisman of Indulgence and the Signet should be right there. They're just classics in your red black. Same thing with Arcane Signet. I always like my stone in a 2-color deck. Being able to sacrifice it to draw a card is always nice utility. Ornithopter of Paradise, nice best mana dork in non-green decks. Seething Song, another ritual, 3 mana to get 5. Just looking for some of the better rituals to move things along. Burgie is pretty sweet, so whenever you cast a spell, you get a red. Um, and that's kind of what it's here for, is just to keep on rolling and moving and doing stuff. Ashnod's Altar is a sack outlet to add mana, along with a sack outlet for the imps. Transmigrant Altar, pay a black tap it, sack a creature, add 3 colorless, or you can sack a creature to create a 3/3 zombie. A colorless zombie seems bad. Weird. Not bad, but weird. Um, I wanted to use it, and I just talked about not wanting to have my creatures be needing to be sacked for ramp, and I know I gotta cut ramp, and so maybe that was a thought I didn't have before, so maybe we get rid of those too. Cryptghast, swamps tap for another swamp. Also, the extort's really nice. Treasonous Ogre, you can pay 3 life to add a red. You don't really care. You can gain life back with Judith's lifelink death touch ability, and also just being able to go off. Same thing with Urbrask. It kind of flips into a saga, but here for the red and a damage. It's pretty nice in that regard. Stormkiln Artist, creating a treasure whenever you cast an instant of sorcery. And the Golden Throne. Ah, damn it. I thought this would be the deck for it, but again, you can tap, sack a creature, add 3 mana of any combination of your colors. It's 4 mana. It'll save your life. I was really hoping to be in here, but I kind of already made that rule. You just go with it, and then I can add it back in if I feel like that'll be helpful. But I got also a lot at that 4 spot for ramp, Stormkiln, Urbrask, Treasonous Ogre, Cryptghast. And those are all, kind of mid-game stuff. And right after that, it should be into Judith and something. And kind of starting to try and go off a bit. So right there, not too bad. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. I'm at least under 20 now. I want to be somewhere in between 15 and 20. And like I said, there's a lot of red right here. So I like Nightscape Familiar reducing red. The runaway Steamkin will get things moving. I said 19, I believe. So at this point, I like it. We'll keep it there. Let's go with the drawing. Also is going to need to get cut down quite a bit. Oh, I guess. Okay. Impulsive Pilfer. And I like this one too. Freebooter. If they die, they both get you a treasure. This one will scry. This one has encore, but they both get you treasure, which is cheap ramp sacrificing. Here we go. Some of the draw. Hey, forgot to say this, but please leave a like. If somebody's building Judith, send this over to them, share, see what they think about it. Leave comments on whatever you would probably do, because whatever I'm doing does not mean you're going to be doing it. Village Rights here, 1 black, sack a creature or draw 2 cards. One thing that would be nice, and I don't know if I added it in here, but if you're copying spells and they have an additional cost to cast that states that, if you copy it, you do not have to do that as well. And so if I pay a black, sack a creature, draw 2 cards, but also copy it, I'm drawing 4 cards, no sacking extra cards, which is different than just having sack being tacked on to a card. There are a little bit differences, but generally when it says cost to cast, extra as an additional cost to cast, that is a key that it is part of the casting cost. And so you have to sacrifice that creature, and then if somebody counterspells it, you don't get the effect, but you've already sacrificed the creature. Um, Stuff like that. So Village Rice is nice, drawing 2 cards. Corrupted Conviction, same thing, drawing 2 cards, sack a creature. Faithless Looting, I do want to bring this up. I tried to reduce the amount of discard into draw because I want to be sacrificing creatures off this ability, but there is a way that if you want to, I got a little bit of a glare, but maybe see here. I think there could be a reanimation deck here. Red green. You have a bunch of um discard to draw, that type of card, Thrill Possibility, Cathartic Reunion, along with Faithless Looting, and a couple, maybe one more that fits in here. But there's a handful of reanimation spells that allow you to sacrifice a creature like an imp and bring it back, and you're recreating an imp off that cast. You're getting stuff into the yard. You keep on. I think there's something there. I just didn't go down that route. Um, Victimize would be a reanimation spell. There's the one from Time Spiral where it's like 4 mana, return a creature, and then you can sack 3 creatures to return another creature. So there's that. Faithless Looting, draw 2, discard 2. Flashback is nice. We got Sensei's Top. Plumb the Forbidden is basically a you pay 1 life, sack a creature, draw a card, and you can repeat that process for as many times as you want. It's just kind of like sacrifice all your imps to draw a bunch of cards. Everybody loses 2 times whatever life, and you lose that much life too, but should be nice. Ragnar's Bargain, sack a creature, draw 2 cards. Costly Plunder. There is a sack a creature or an artifact. Gives you a little bit of flexibility, but in that regard, those are nice as well. So sack an artifact or a creature, draw 2 cards. Costly Plunder, sack a creature or an artifact, draw 2 cards. Skull Tap is sack a creature, draw 2 cards. Knight's Whisper is just pay 2 life, draw 2 cards. Mordor's Muster, draw a card, lose a life, create a creature to be able to sack to other ones. We got Deadly Dispute, which is sack a creature or artifact, draw 2 cards, create a treasure. Nasty End, sack a creature, draw 2 cards. If it's legendary, draw 3 cards instead. More than likely, it's just 2. Altar's Reet, sack a creature, draw 2 cards. Fanatical Offering, sack a creature or an artifact, draw 2 cards, create a map token. Humble Defector, you tap it, draw 2 cards. While that's on the stack, you can go and sacrifice it for whatever you're trying to do before you hand it off. Or it's just a nice thing to give over, and then you wrath your opponent's board soon after. Like, that's the plan, right? Demand Answers, either sack an artifact or discard a card to draw 2 cards. Instant is nice. Demand Answers, new one, beautiful. Read the Bones, scry 2, draw 2, lose 2. Risk Factor, instant, draw 3 cards unless somebody has 4 damage dealt to them, and then you can jumpstart it, which is discard a card to play it from your graveyard. This is a nice one because it can be either or. It can either be, okay, if I know they're going to take 4 damage, you turn it into a lifelink spell, so you're at least gaining 4 life, or if you want that imp to hang around too, but it's kind of nice. Also thinking about like the flashback stuff, trying to be able to cast stuff from the graveyard, so you always got something going on, right? Wheel of Misfortune, you definitely name lifelink on this one. You should be gaining, you know, you just say whatever you want to pay, and then you gain all that life back anyway. Yawgmoth Thrawn Physician, sack a creature, draw a card. That's kind of the way to be. Drivnod. Are we getting beyond? Oh, all right. That's the draw package right there. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 19, 20. Not too bad either. Not too bad. All right. Let's quick go over this. Like instants versus sorceries, I don't know what I'm gonna end up wanting. I think we cut Read the Bones here just because it's not on theme. It's still a really, really solid card, but it's always going to be imp. Um, and maybe having that distinction between the two could be really nice. Didn't you say you wanted more draw in decks anyway? Well, yeah, yeah. Just in general, I always want more draw and um, more ramp. But right now, there's a couple that float on both, and so if I'm at 20 down to 19, just seeing what we can cut. Um, and I like all these sacrifice something to draw 2 cards. The other card that we're not gonna see tonight that I want to get in here, but I already have 2 of them in 2 different decks that really like it already. I do not have Tibalt's Trickery in here. No counter spells. I'm just gonna draw a bunch of cards. Um, but basically, El Hamret's Archive, that'll draw you draw another card every time you draw more than your first card, and you gain double life. So double draw, double life. It'd be fantastic in here. I just don't have it, so we won't see it. Build a better deck. No, no. So I like all these sacrifice to draw things. Yeah, just the one. Read the Bones. Everything else I'm pretty happy with. Boop. All right, let's get on to some other things here. Drivnod, this is nice. So you can pay 2, exile 3 creature cards from your graveyard to make it indestructible. 8/3 for 5. If a creature dying causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. And so those imps dying would deal 4 damage instead of 2. It's a little bit of a different idea when it comes to, like, I think you could put Torbrand in this place. But there are plenty of cards like Greedy Freebooter. I want to say there's 10 to 15 cards that care about creatures dying. Like this doubles up on Skull Clamp, and we'll get to that too. Did I not? What the fuck is all right? Transmogrant's Crown. I don't know, and Skull Clamp. I don't know why these are right there. Those are draw cards. So we're back up over 20. But those will double trigger with Drivnod in play, stuff like that. You're almost as bad as Adam. No, he plays only red decks. I guess this is the 3rd red black deck I've built in like 6 months though. So rough. But yeah, doubling up, death triggers is nice. Maniform Hellkite is I do love red. It's definitely the worst color out of red black though. So but whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create an XX red dragon illusion for the that you've spent on it. And then you got to exile the tokens at the beginning. But if you're already a sack deck, you can just sacrifice those if Judith isn't in play, or you can draw cards or, with Yawgmoth and stuff like that at the end. Yeah. And it is non-creature. So this could be in an equipment deck and get that trigger. But it should be pretty cool in here. Slaughter Specialist. When it ETBs, each opponent gets a 1/1 white human creature token. And then whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, put a 1/1 counter on it. It's only 2 mana for a 3/3. And you'll see that the removal package will be able to take care of that quite easy. It's cheap. It'll get big real quick. There's another draw card. Liliana Dreadhorde General. Whenever a creature you control dies, draw a card. You should be drawing a bunch of cards. And then Morbid Opportunist. Also, whenever another creature dies, you get to draw a card. Happens once per turn. Jesus, I don't know why this is out of place, but we're just gonna roll with it. Black Market. Whenever a creature dies, put a counter on it, and then at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, add that much black to your mana pool. Imps are dying. Opponents' creatures are dying, all that stuff. Revel in Riches, basically the same thing, only opponents' creatures, and you get treasures. Pitiless Plunder, this is your creatures die, you get a treasure. What do we got? Mahadi, Imperium Master. At the beginning of your end step, create a treasure token for each creature that died this turn. So that can count for your imp tokens or anything that you have killed over your opponents. Gadrak, similar but different. 5/4 flying. A Gadrak can't attack unless you control 4 or more artifacts. That likely won't be a problem here. But at the beginning of your end step, create a treasure token for each non token creature that died this turn. So, more than likely, it's not going to be as good for you or as good as the other one. But a 5/4 flyer, really cheap. And you're still going to be killing some people's creatures every once in a while. Solemn, this is a nice back and forth, but it gets you land. When it dies, you draw a card. Great sacrifice fodder. It's a little bit of both. Archfiend of the Dross. Now we're back to the cool stuff again. 6/6 flying. ETBs with 4 oil counters on it, 4 mana. And then at the beginning of your upkeep, remove an oil counter. If you can't remove an oil counter, you lose the game. Oh, if it has no oil counters on it, you lose the game. So after the 4th turn, it goes away. But you should have enough sacrifice to not truly worry about that. And whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, its controller loses 2 life. So just looking to move the game along. Nice beater in the air. Sedgemoor Witch, Menace, Ward, pay 3 life, Magecraft. So whenever you're casting these spells, you're also creating pest tokens. Not a bad deal. Reassembling Skeleton, just something that you can bring back from the yard and sacrifices, you know, good. Bloodghast, same thing. Something to be able to sacrifice and get back from the graveyard. Same thing with Nether Trader. Just getting it back from the yard. Young Pyromancer, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, create a 1/1 token. So it's a little bit of a token deck, but just having enough stuff to be able to sacrifice to get to the imps later on. Garrett's Belligerence. You pay X and it deals 1 damage divided as you, or I'm going to be doing 1 damage as I do choose among any number of target creatures. Whenever a creature dealt damage this way dies, this turn populate, which basically means you give it death touch, 1 damage to everything that you possibly can touch. It dies, you populate them imps, you sacrifice them, do a lot of damage. Mob Verdict. This is more of a fun one, but it totally works. New from the Blame Game one, but each player secretly votes. And if they vote for you, you get to draw a card. And if you're going to vote for somebody else, but whoever else gets voted is dealt 2 damage to each of their creatures and each player. This one you choose Death Touch Lifelink, kills all their creatures, gain a bunch of life. Also likely going to draw a card or 2. Shh, it's a secret. Visions of Ruin. I like this card in commanders that cost a little bit more, and 5's a little bit more, but Visions of Ruin, each opponent sacrifices an artifact and you get a treasure in that way. So it's 4 mana to do that. And then the next, it has a flashback, which again, you're able to cast it more later on or right away too, because then it's just 5 and you just created 3 treasure anyway. So really it's just 2 more red mana. So if you're at 6 mana, you cast that twice, you're good to go. You just destroyed 6 artifacts. We're in the removal. All right. Remember that, kids. All right. Token, sack fodder, bada bing. So, bop, bop, bop. All right. This is part of it that I said people are going to hate about it, and they likely will hate this part of Judith, but it's going to control the board. But Scouring Sands, sorcery, deals 1 damage to each creature your opponents control. You get to scry 1 as well. So Death Touch Lifelink, gain a bunch of life, kill all their creatures, and you get to scry. Smash to Dust, sorcery, destroy an artifact, or destroy a creature with Defender, which you wouldn't do because you just deal 1 damage to each creature your opponents control and kill them all. Fang Dragon here for the Forktail Sweep. And it deals 1 damage to each creature you don't control. And so later on, it can be a 7 mana flying 6/3. That's not the goal. The goal is here to deal damage. Shenanigans, destroy an artifact, dredge 1. So whenever you draw a card, you can mill 1, bring that back to your hand. So it's kind of like that recasting from the yard and just always having something. Monster for what? Just killing all the creatures? Is that what we're talking about? Cast into the fire. This exiles an artifact or just in general. All right. but it can deal 1 damage to each of up to 2 target creatures. So this one has an artifact or 2 different creatures. Electricity instant, you overload it and then deals 1 damage to each creature you don't control. You got Goblin Bombardment as a sack outlet, dealing 1 damage to any target. Tectonic Hazard, 1 damage to each opponent and each creature they control. So a little damage into the creatures. There's a card that I don't have. It's End the Festivities. Same thing from the newest Innistrad, Crimson Vow, I think. Same thing. I just didn't have it, and it's more than it should be. So we'll see. Flame Jab, 1 damage to target creature or player. This is something that you are doing the Death Touch lifelink, and then it has retrace, so you can discard a land card, pay the red to play it again, get an imp, or lifelink Death Touch, stuff like that. Punishing Fire, this is one I'll probably cut, but I really like the potential for replayability here. But 2 damage to a creature or player. If an opponent gains life, you pay a red, return it to your hand. And then obviously you are likely doing Death Touch. Just it's a kill spell that gains you life over and over and over again. But we will get rid of that for now. Not cutting a lot here, roughly. Pestilence Spirit. Excited to play this one. Menace, Death Touch 3/2, but instants and sorcery spells you control have Death Touch. So it's a backup to Judith. All good. Whale of the Nim. 3, and then you're paying the black here, but regenerate each creature you control, and Whale of the Nim deals 1 damage to each creature and each player. Instant speed. It's going to save your creatures. You're going to gain more life with Judith, stuff like that. Veilstone Amulet. Whenever you play a spell, we are into protection, so that's enough removal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 14. Not too bad. Should be able to control the board with that pretty heavily. Might need to get rid of something here. Let's say I got to cut something. I think it's going to be Shenanigans. Well, I'm going to cut that for now. And then if I want it to come back in, like I like Visions of Ruin a lot more because it can hit those treasures. Everything else is just going to be really, really basic removal. It's, I got enough artifact removal. Probably Cast into the Fire. Visions. Well, maybe I don't. I'm down to 2. Uh-oh. Should probably be fine. Go with that for now. Veilstone Amulet, getting into protection here, but whenever you play a spell, creatures you control can't be the target of spells or abilities your opponents control this turn. Hexproof. Whenever you cast a spell, your creatures gain hexproof. If you have enough instants in a deck and you play this, all right? It's a fantastic card. It's ridiculous in Calamax and Feather in my decks, and it should go really well here. That's why I favor instant speed cards here, because that basically fizzles pinpoint removal. Doesn't do anything against your wraths by any means. But if somebody's going to wrath you, they're going to get some imps dead, and they're going to get dealt some damage. Swiftfoot Boots and Greaves, both pretty good, easy, simple. Deflection Swat, free, protect Judith. Gift of Doom, it's a morph card. You lay it down, and then you sack an imp, and then you attach the aura to Judith. It gains Death Touch and Indestructible. It'll sit back and block for days. Roaming Throne is here. It's to double up the trigger for Judith. And if it's late game and you have a lot of imps, it comes down, you name a creature type, and then whenever there is a trigger of that, you double it. And the imps being, that death trigger of an imp would double, trigger again. So that'd be 4 damage if you say the imp. But also if you just name human or shaman for Judith, you're going to get 2 imps on that regard. Same thing with Harmonic Prodigy, but it's just 4 shamans. So she is a human shaman. That'll trigger twice. So if you say imp, you'll get 2 imps with that. One I'm pretty excited to play with, so I really hope it makes it. And I think Adam's excited for this one too. Each opponent, but Prisoner's Dilemma, also flashback, so I like that aspect too. But Secretly chooses silence or snitch, then the choices are revealed. If each opponent chooses silence, deals 4 damage to each of them. If an opponent chooses snitch, prisoner's dilemma, or if they all choose snitch, deals 8 damage. And then if they are not in alliance on either regard, it deals 12 damage to each opponent who chooses silence. So this is one that you're going to gain a lot of life off of. Either it's going to deal 8 damage, 8, 16, 24, or if it hits 2 for snitch, that's 24, or if it's going to hit everybody, 4, 8, 12, that's more than likely, worst case scenario, it's going to be doing 12 to 16 damage, and you're going to be gaining that much life. So this is a big swing in that regard. We'll see if it makes a cut because it's not killing creatures by any means. But yeah, it's going to be a nice life swing, and then being able to flash it back is going to be really nice as well. Kalida's Traitor of Get, one of our non-token creature and opponent controls would die. Instead, exile that card and put a 2/2 black zombie creature token on the battlefield. You can sack another vampire or zombie to put 2/1/1 counters on Kalidas. Has lifelink, but basically you do one of those 1 damage to everything, and you get a bunch of 2/2 zombos. Arcane Bombardment, 6-man enchantment. Whenever you cast your first instant or sorcery spell each turn, exile an instant or sorcery card at random from your graveyard. Then copy each card exiled with Arcane Bombardment. You may cast any number of the copies without paying their mana cost. And remember that sacrificing the creatures is part of the cost. And so I believe you don't have to do that once you start copying these spells and casting them for free. I will have to double check on that, and so I probably should have done that before making the video, but it should be a lot of drawing cards in that regard. I'm excited for that. Whoop. Mizzix's Mastery. You overload this, and then you just casting all the spells in your graveyard, instants or sorceries for free. Krork the Thumbless. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, flip a coin. If you lose the flip, return that spell to its owner's hand. If you win the spell, you may choose new targets for the copy. I'm going to cut this right now. I've been thinking about it a little bit. I'd really like the doubling effect. And all Judith really cares about is the cast. And so you can still get your imps. It would kill off the Death Touch and Lifelink. But with all the sacrificing a creature being part of the cost and then losing that ability, I think that feels pretty bad. So I'm gonna get rid of that. But double vision stays. Enchantment, whenever you cast your first instant or sorcery spell, copy it. That's gonna be sweet. And it goes really well with Magecraft as well, which is 1 card in here. 2? I got 2. So I like that. Blood for the Blood God. Reduces the cost every time for each creature that's died this turn, but discard your hand, then draw 8 cards. Blood for the Blood God deals 8 damage to each opponent. Exile it. And so essentially it is your name in Death Touch Lifelink. And this is what I know that I want this drawing cards. But it's going to gain 8, 16, 24 life along with drawing 8 cards. It's pretty good. A treasure map. I'm making some treasures in here, but I just like that it's cheap. It's scrying. It gets you the treasures later that can be either mana or draw when you flip it. It's just some nice flexibility when most of my draw spells are sacrificing a creature. So I think I like that. Jessica's Will. It's just good, right? It's ramp, it's draw to a degree. Chandra's Incinerator. It's going to be X less for all non-combat damage dealt to your opponents this turn. 1 imp dies, it's 1 red to come into play. And then whenever a source you control deals non-combat damage to an opponent, Chandra's Incinerator deals that much damage to target creature or planeswalker that player controls. Excuse me. And so an imp dies, 2/2/2 to each player, and then 2/2/2 to each one of their creatures, and then depends on how many imps you got going on there. And so it should do a lot of work. The problem that's gonna end up being is that I might already have enough removal that dealing 2 damage to their creatures might not matter. So right now, I'm going to cut it, but it's something that I'm gonna keep an eye on type thing, if that makes sense. Um, because it's gonna be crazy with Blood for the Blood God, and it'd be, it's good. It's in there potentially. It's like one of the last cuts I want, but I do think it's awkward at this point, and we'll see where it fits. Fire Covenant, this is something that you're taking the Death Touch lifelink, but as an additional cost to cast this, you pay X life and it deals X damage divided as you choose among any number of target creatures, which is 1 1 1 1 1 1 1. You pay as much life as you possibly can, kill everything, gain all that life back, yada yada. And Culling the Weak, sack a creature, add 4 black to your mana pool. It is an instant, I believe, which is a lot different than that first one that we were talking about, Infernal Plunge, which is a sorcery. I'm gonna keep Culling the Weak in that regard. Uh, so go through this pile right here. Culling the Weak, I'm probably well, give me a second. Let's go back through this because some of this stuff was all over the place. Very unorganized. I apologize. Let's see here. This is more of a draw. That's more of a ramp card, in my opinion. Scrying. Bop. All right. Let's recount the draw here because we've added throughout the time 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 18 19 20 26. Yeah, that's too much. So let's go through that and try and reduce it by the mana cost at this point. Obviously, that's going to be pretty high. 3, 2, 3, 6, 1, ones. And it's always the cheaper the better, right? But the question ends up being what's where. That's a 4 and that's a 2. All right. Big plays would be Liliana or Blood for the Blood God. Liliana's nice because it is still removal. You should have enough tokens and or imps sitting around to be able to just sacrifice them, gaining some life. It's also a token producer. I'm gonna have to check how many zombies I can actually make in this deck. There's where's there's that zombie that you can pay a black and cast it from your graveyard. 2/1, can't block. But you can, if you have a zombie in play, you can do that. So I know the vampire can make them, and it looks like Liliana can. The question is how many sources do I have? Because that could take out some of the other ones. Yawgmoth is going to be crazy. I'm very sure of that. Let me take a quick drink of water. That's good. All right. Risk factor. I think we'll cut that because again, I don't necessarily want to be discarding cards, and I'd rather draw cards instead of just dealing damage. So we can cut risk factor. I love that card though. Wheel of Misfortune. I do really like that one. Morbid Opportunist likely will draw me plenty of cards. Same thing with Jessica's Will. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Whoosh. All right, let's wait on that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Down with all that. So I think we thin this one out. Down 1 so far. I want to cut at least. All right. Flexibility, instant. Let's see here. This one has to be a creature. And it's a sorcery. Let's cut Skull Tap. Knight's Whisper is just 2 life. Sack a creature, but it's an instant. Nasty End is an instant. Deadly Dispute. Mordor. Muster is kind of nice just because it leaves behind a creature. Instant. Humble Defector. How much do I like that one? It's not on theme. It's a creature I can sacrifice. Instant speed, though. I want Transmogrant's Crown in there just because I want it. Same thing with the map. All right. Reckoner's Bargain has the potential to gain me life. Instant. Sorcery. Instance. Let's get this off. Deadly Dispute. Instant. This has to be a sorcery too during your turn. I think I'll get rid of Humble Defector here. I think it's just different enough that I don't want it. All right, that's discard or sack. Sack a creature. Creature artifact, creature artifact, creature, creature, creature artifact, creature artifact. And so the other thing to point out too is that you need at least one creature to sacrifice. If you have Judith out, you can't do this, create an imp and sacrifice that same imp. It has to be a different creature. Once you get that imp, then you can start rolling with it later on. But you need to kind of wait on that in that regard. I think I'm going to get rid of Mordor Muster. All right, that'll be 3, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 18, 19, 20, 22. That's still too much. Blood for the Blood God. Is Liliana just too late? Let's say yes. We'll cut Liliana. I think the equipment would just be better? Question mark. And there's a strong possibility that I've already I'm a wrathing deck, and so everybody sacrificing 2 creatures might be really not there, and so paying 6 mana probably isn't right in that regard. Yawgmoth, yeah. Wheel, Morbid Opportunist. Question is I'm not really sacrificing on each turn, but I mean, there's only so many creatures that I'm going to have in this deck, right? No, there's going to be tokens. Let's cut Morbid Opportunist. Jessica's Will. It's not really drawing, but that's also fine. Skull Clamp, yeah. Faithless Looting, Village Rites. Yeah, I like all of these. Dun, 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 dun. All right, so I'm going to make not a good reason, but I want Man Answers in my Calamax deck. I mean, it's just a reason. And I need to get another one or more of it. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 19. 19 ain't horrible. We'll go with that. Let's look at our manas. 6, 7, 8. 28. 28. That's it's too much. Let's get that into a curve. See what we're doing here. threes. I think, and this is that part. It's like there's plenty of setup that I need to do in this deck. So the ramp is high. All right, higher than a motherfucker. Twos, and I still have plenty of the cheap stuff as well. Okay. I like the idea of black market and revel in riches. An opponent controls dice, create a colorless treasure artifact token. And then if you have 10 or more treasures, you win the game. That doesn't seem impossible. I don't know if I like that. And I don't know if I need black market either. I mean, it could be nice. Go black market into the next turn, Judith, and do the 1 damage wrath. Sup, Scott? I know they're good. All right. You'll convince me to keep it. I always end up cutting black market. Yeah, I mean, my problem probably with both of these is that I'm not going really, really big mana. I'm doing a lot more of the drawing. That's still gonna be mana intensive at that point. But I think I'd rather have like the 4 mana bits. I think we'll cut those for now. I'm at 28. I gotta get aggressive on my ramp. Cutting on my ramp. Cryptghast, Treasonous Ogre, Urbrass, Storm Kiln, Pitiless Plunderer. I mean, Pitiless Plunderer and Storm Kiln Artist are basically the same thing in this deck. Although, well, Magecraft doesn't really matter. There's not many spells that are going to be copied. Cryptghast, Treasonous Ogre. Question ends up being, is like Urbrask worth it? Adds that extra damage just to 1. And then we what? 3 damage to target opponent and each creature they control. Create 3 treasure tokens. Until end of turn, you may cast instant sorcery spells from your graveyard. Oh, I like that. This way it'd be put into the graveyard, exile it instead. Oh, I kind of like that. Kind of like that double up. I'd have to think about the other cards I have in there. I kind of forgot about the casting from the graveyard bit. What's the goal? Yeah. Yep. So, Scott, you're just catching you up, going through. It's basically going to be it's Judith. Control the board with Death Touch, Lifelink, surround the board damage, and then it's drawing cards, sacrificing imps, and creating imps. And you got a bunch of cards that are going to be doing that. And so it's essentially control the board with damage to all the opponent's creatures, and then drawing a bunch of cards while you're sacrificing those same imps to deal 2 damage to everything. That's kind of what's going on. And so I like Urbrask, I like Pitiless at this point. Cryptghast. I guess the question ends up being, how much am I waiting here? So it'd be switch it, 3 damage. That's not bad because basically it's almost right away. I like all of those. I dislike that I like all of them. That's a lot at that 4 spot. Burgie's sweet. I think I'm going to cut Gadrak because it's so dependent on non-token creatures, to whereas Mahadi, Emperor Master, can count the tokens that I'm potentially sacrificing or anything that I'm killing. We can cut Gadrak. I'm okay with that. That's 3 down to 25. Seething Song will get me quicker. Burgie. Mahadi. All right. I like Ornithopter. That's gonna be hard. And I like the idea of creatures being able to be sacrificed beforehand, but maybe that's not what I should be thinking right now. Dockside. I mm, I think we can get rid of Steamkin because I think once I'm going off, it's gonna be mostly black cards instead of red cards, which in turn I should be thinking I think I can cut Nightscape Familiar as well and just work on black cards being reduced. 2, 3, 4, 5, down to 23. Um, don't strike it rich, dark ritual, greedy, da da da. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 23. Not too bad on that either. All right. Made some decent cuts there. All right. Let's go through everything else. Double vision is the doubling. Mizzix's mastery from the graveyard. Maybe because I don't know. Word this. All right. Exile target card that's instant or sorcery from your graveyard. For each card exiled this way, copy it, and you may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. I think we cut that and we keep Urabrask, even though I really like the idea of mastery in there. But, and I kind of want to work with Arcane Bombardment, and you can just start recasting stuff. I like the idea of Kalidas in there a lot. Prisoner's Dilemma is a lot of life gain. I don't know if it's something that I want in here, especially if I don't have like Chandra's Ignition or Incinerator. Let's cut that for now. Bummer. Bummer, bummer. Harmonics are doubling. I like Roaming Throne for doubling that. Gift of Doom, like that as a little bit of a sack outlet protection. Deflecting, Boots, Greaves, Amulet. I like all those. I don't have a lot of protection in here, so I don't want to cut any of that. I think I like some of the tokens that are going on. Young Pyromancer. I think another creature is put in your graveyard. You may pay a black. I don't know if I like the timing, but I got plenty of sacrifice outlets. So I guess, and this goes directly into play. I can't block with it. It can't be blocked. That's kind of irrelevant. This can at least block. Let's cut Nether Trader. We can keep Bloodgast around and reassembling Skeleton. I think I'm okay with that. Sedgemoor Witch, making them tokens. Archfiend of the Dross, ending the game a little bit quicker. Slaughter Specialist, is that something that I care about? Slaughter Specialist. I probably like that because it's cheaper. Maniform Hellkite is going to be able to get some damage in. Instant speed can get me some blockers if I so wish. I think that 4 mana spot's going to be really thick. Let's cut that. Ugh. Drivnod, yep. A removal package I think is pretty important and pretty tight at this point. Fire Covenant, Whale of the Nim, Pestilent Spirit to give a little double up on that. Flame Jab, Tectonic Hazard, Goblin Bombardment, Electrickery, cast it into the fire. Forktail Sweep, Smash to Dust, dot, 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 and dot. All right, let's do a little count here. It's feeling like it fits the hands all right. 5, 6, 7, 8. 30. 30. 13. 73. All right. Essentially 10 more cuts. Not doing too bad for the night. Not bad at all. We'll go into our curve, full on curve, see where everything's sitting. Twosy woozies. 1, 3, 4. Big 5. And this will just see how quick everything kind of happens and what's going to start happening. It'll be interesting. I generally don't play with rituals, and I have a handful here of them. So we'll see what that's going to end up doing. Twos. I'm sure that'll be really nice in a certain regard. But you need protection too if you're coming out fast. 2, 2. Probably will have to go out and end the festivities. Figure out a way to get El Hamrat's archive in here. That's 4, 5, 2 twos, 3, 4, 4, and 6. All right, that's everything there. So we have 10 more cuts. I'm going to move. Take another drink. So I think one thing that I would like, but I don't know if I have room for it, is the whenever an opponent has a creature die thing. Opponent controls would die non-token. That's non-token. Oh, 10 cuts is easy. Heading out to watch something with Cindy. Night, night, bud. Thanks for joining. All right, let's just start at the top. I think Garrett's Belligerence and Blood of the Blood God are both solid. I think they're going to do a lot of work. I like the populate part and just getting more imps in that regard. Arcane Bombardment. Whenever you cast your first instant or sorcery spell each turn, exile. Oh, it's the first. It's not every time you do it. Oh. Each turn. That's, I guess, cuttable. Because I think I plan on doing it kind of a lot on a turn. Drivnod makes sense to me. Double Vision is a first on the turn as well. And we can cut that down. This is what I would probably have Elhamret's archive anyway, so this allows me to draw more cards. Let's cut that for now. Making it real slim. Not much. 3 cards above 5 and more. All right, that's 2. We're going to get, this might be a record for me. All right. Lots in that 2 range. All right. I like Kalidas, Roaming Throne, Archfiend. I kind of want to go into the whenever opponents have a creature die, they lose 2 life type thing a little bit more. But we'll see. I probably don't have more. I don't have room for that at this point. But Whale of the Nim, Vision of Ruin, Solum is probably something I can cut. I already have a lot of ramp at that point. At that 4 spot, I'd much rather be playing Ur Brask. Pitiless Plunderer, Storm-Kiln Artist, Cryptghast. I think the only thing that's keeping Cryptghast around is that extort part and just gaining some life whenever you're casting spells. Let's cut it. Let's try Treasonous Ogre out on this one. Yeah. 2, 3, 4. That 3 spot. Oh, not a lot at that 3 spot either. Normally 2 and 3 is my heavy, and I think this was. There's just so much in my 2 spot, which is not a real problem. I like Gift of Doom, Veilstone Amulet, Edgemore Witch. Gain a little bit of life there as well. Fire Covenant, yeah. Pestilent Spirit. Seething Song. I don't know if I need that one. How many rituals do I actually need? Dark Ritual. I think that's helpful, right? That'll at turn 3 get me a Treasonous Ogre. Have one left over. Burgie is nice. Jessica's Wheel of Miss. All of the rituals, huh? So 1, 2. I don't think. Let's just run through this real quick. See how many are actually in there. Did I say 2? I got 2 there. Only have 3. Just complaining about it. 3, 4. Calling the week 4. 4. That should be fine. That's fine. I don't need to cut any of them. If you don't normally play with rituals, give it a shot. I was surprised at how often they provide value, even late game. All right. Yeah, it looks like I have about 4. I'm counting Jessica's Will in there. But that should be good. Don't want to cut from there because I do like the spell ramp that we got going on. All right. That 2 spot. Harmonic Prodigy. The ability. Yeah. Lightning Greaves and Boots for sure. I'm going to have to go through after this. I'm going to ask questions and see if things work, but I like Slaughter Specialist. That's something that we might be able to cut. I think that's something that we can cut. I think what that does is muddles what's going on. And that's kind of the question about Kalidas as well, is how many, like the real goal is to create imps, sacrifice them, and then it's nice to be able to hit an electricity and just control the board a little bit, but I don't necessarily need that that extra step off of electricity to get more bonuses off of it. So I think we can potentially cut those cards and ideas to just make it. What am I doing? I'm sacrificing imps. I'm making imps, sacrificing them, and running the board with electricity type of cards. And that's what's happening. And that's what I plan on doing. And then that's just a lot of the draw. I want to keep a lot of these, so I know that's what's going to happen. Thunderscape Familiar. We'll stick with that because that reduces it down to a black for that. Dockside Arcane. Is it weird to think that maybe I should get rid of the Signet and Talisman? I think we get rid of Ornithopter. That feels weird. Would have thought I really liked that there. Just making cuts. I know that I need to get rid of some ramp. I like that that's a two-way player. Same thing with treasure map. All right. Done with that. 1, 2. There's a lot in that 2 spot though. I'm not hating it. All right. 1 to 0. I think I really like Wayfarer's Bauble in a 2-color non-green deck. Or even 3-color, but I don't have any artifact synergies. I don't have any way to bring back artifacts from the graveyard or really anything from the graveyard. Other than spells. I think we can cut that. It's probably all right. Strike it rich. Greedy. Freeboater. Calling the weak. That'd be fun. Turn 2 Judith. Potentially. All right. Where are we at? Wise. 5, 6, 7. 3 more. All right. So some questions I want to ask myself is like, how many creatures and or cards are going to create creatures that I can sacrifice without Judith? Because gonna need some setup before she comes down, and then you can just start rolling. So the question ends up is how many things out there are able to sacrifice or creates something that I want to sacrifice to draw cards and not have it just be a total drawback. Like that. That'll make doot. Once Dockside is there, that's good to sacrifice. That's kind of like a ritual as well. That'll make tokens. I'm all right with that. I'll have to go through and look at sack outlets too. This is kind of a need, but like I was asking myself about like Kalidas and Archfiend of the Dross. I feel like Kalidas is going to be a huge swing that I'd really like. And I like Archfiend of the Dross to whereas like that one, it becomes a bigger creature. It does feed into it a little bit. It'd be kind of fun to give a like hunt a dragon type feel and giving creatures and then killing them off. Giveth and taketh away. So right now I need to figure out whoop. Not what I need. Okay. I do need to sacrifice that. And this will give me creature tokens, but kind of after the fact, so it's not really there. All right. 2, 7, 8. I love it. So I definitely need to keep all those just for a little bit of being able to do that. All right, Drivnod. Let's look for like death triggers. That would double. And these 2 would double. The non-creature opponent controls would die. Instead, exile that card and put a 2/2. I don't know if that would end up doubling because you can't double exile the card. That's questionable. I'm not going to mark it in my Drivnod effect, but it's questionable. Is dealt damage this way, dies this turn, populate. It's not, this is looking for a permanent to trigger. This is not a permanent, so that doesn't work. Pitiless Plunder would double trigger. All the imps would trigger with Drivnod, which would be sweet. Madi would trigger off the death, I believe. Mm, that's and then skull clamp, crown. Not a lot. Two, three, four, five, six, seven. Yeah, I've cut enough. All right, driv with the imps, is driv not worth it? That's a good question. Um, 8/3 can likely get that. Indestructible, 5 mana can kind of move the game forward a little bit, but at the same time, like, draw 2 cards, draw 4 cards, get double the treasures, and those are just and then 4 for each. That's questionable. I'm gonna keep it in for now. What do we got? 5, 6, 7. 3 more cuts. What's another angle that we can do here? Thanks, Scott. Yeah, it should be fun. I'm hoping it is. I'm only gonna, I have 3 cuts here. Otherwise, it's kind of a done deck. Um, and so we'll kind of see where it ends up going. Let's just trying to look for another like question. Why would I want to cut something? And then it's like this is supporting something that can be happening in the deck, but is it happening enough in the deck? Um, and so the question ends up being, is there something that does not belong? I always make plenty of changes. So I guess the other thing to say is this deck will end up being on Moxfield here pretty quick in roughly 48 hours. So you can go check out the Commander Smith's podcast and not podcast, the Moxfield. Check it out, Judith, Commander Smith's. Also, we have a store if you want to buy I'd build a better deck or hashtag Team Forest Walk shirts. We got some mugs. I should probably they're Yetis, stuff like that. So go check out the store, commandersmiths.com if you're sticking around. Oh, sack outlets. That's what I want. Let's go check that out. So we'll do singular sack outlets versus a bunch, and then we'll go from there. But that's the other plug, I guess. That's kind of about all I need to do. This could be an all-out sack outlet if I don't want to do the regenerate. Um, that's a singular time. It's gonna be over here. That is as much as I want. Let's see here. And if I have too many sack outlets, then I can cut probably Goblin Bombardment. But I think I'm after the draws, which are singular and they're supposed to kind of run off of themselves. Um, like create the token, draw some cards. This I would consider an all-out sacrifice. Mm. Hmm. Da, 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 da. Yeah. So most of it is being based off of drawing one ramp, one protection, drawing, but it's like a bunch at a time. Yeah, I can't cut these two. I was thinking Goblin Bombardment, but I think it just has to be there as kind of a backup to be able to just make a bunch of sacrifices and do a little bit of a reach there. That's where we're at sacrifice-wise, which is Rutrow. Alright. I'm gonna put them where they need to be. Drawing, ramping, stuff like that. Removal. And then we'll just see where the numbers are and try and cut from there. Protection, drawing, a little bit of both. Although I generally just count that as, that's a scrying. Draw, that is a unique card. Draw here for the treasures. That is just trying to end the game a little bit quicker. Unique, we'll say that. Draw. Ramp. Removal. That's unique, but it probably should be in removal. Ramp. Protection. Double up. Protection. Removals. It's a double up. 200 card deck piles from now on. I mean, you can, if you get an idea, I'm more than willing to help you out. Post it on the Discord. I can check around, and there's definitely people on the Discord that are willing to help as well. Removals, that's there for the draw. Ramps, and so that's a double up. So more than willing to help on anything that I can do and have time for. So I like the double ups. I like to not have too many bits going on as long as everything's kind of working. Archfiend of the Drost and Drivnod are both. I think Archfiend works better. I think Drivnod helps end the game a bit more, and they work together. Man, Drivnod might get me killed. All right, we're cutting Drivnod. I don't know if I like that idea or not, but 2 cuts might make its way back in. All of these at the end here might make their way back in. I like the double triggers on for the imps. And Jessica's Will makes a ton of sense here. Archfiend of the Dross makes plenty of sense. I can sacrifice that. It's a huge beater. Do one of those little wraths, and everybody's losing a lot of life. I don't know when I'd want to play this necessarily. It's probably like set up Judith, and then next turn Archfiend plus a wrath, and everybody, all their creatures die. They lose a bunch of life. Create an imp. Do some stuff there. Pestilence Spirit is automatically in. It's just that that backup. I think we need to keep all these. I think I'm pretty thin on creatures that I want to be able to sacrifice. And Kalidas is technically not even there. It's just 2 token producers, 2 graveyard enablers. And I don't think I'm at that zombie idea at this point. You know, I got rid of Liliana. I have Kalidas. I think that's it. I can run through. Now that I got the idea, I want to see if there's any other like zombie enablers. So there's one. We're keeping that protection right there, so let's stay in. There's not going to be zombies in this part. Highly unlikely. All right. And a lot of this is going to be just so spell based that it'd be nice to be able to get that zombie in here, but it just seems unlikely. Dwarf. Yeah, it's already there's one that it'd be helpful with. Yeah, there ain't nothing here. All right. It's an idea. All right. Removal. Oh, let's see here. Oh. With Drivnod, if 3 tokens died at once, would you target them for the removal? I'm not entirely sure what you're asking here, Scott. But essentially, if Drivnod's in play, like I'm just looking to sacrifice imps anyway, and so that would just speed up the bit. So if I'm sacrificing 3 imps, that'd be 2, 4, 6, double that up to 12. Doesn't matter the timing, like it would just work. If it was one at a time, which is more than likely. But again, if somebody wraths and I have 3 imps in play, like they're taking at least 6, and if Drivnod's in play, it'd be 12, and Drivnod can potentially survive through that, through a wrath, 8-3. Drivnod's pretty sweet in here. But just taking it out at this point, then we'll see if it gets added back in later on, I think. Down to 2. So the other one that might be mana intensive would be Garrett's Belligerence. I like the populate part, making more imps and stuff like that, but like how many cards is that going to be? We'll cut that. 2, 3. That's 1 more to remove. Let's see here. Ramp 1, 2, 3. 19. Don't hate it. All right, draw. 9. 18. All right, let's recount this. Let's see. We got a fairly low curve. We got a lot of drawing, I'd say. 20. 20. 24. So 64, which means 65, and we want 75, 85, 95. So we'd have 35 land in there. I wouldn't have any problem with that. That's probably the deck. All right. Got it under an hour and a half. Happy about that. Hopefully everybody enjoyed that. You can check the list out on Moxfield here in the next day or two. Should be able to get that up, and I'll be sleeving it up and seeing how it goes, and should be pretty cool. I'm excited to kill everybody on the in the game. Don't come after me, please. This is a game. It's about sorry. All right. Scott, thanks for hanging out. Good night. Bye.